Get into favorites, how to create them. And this is a peculiarly annoying task, primarily because you have so many different Bibles and the display order has to be done individually per Bible. But once you configure your favorites, you're going to be real happy with it. So you could just go through the initial grunt of it. Now there are a number of ways that you can begin to do this. Okay, you know, you have these as your main options, so you never have to remember the buttons. Okay, I don't use these very much. I'm a button person. Okay, we will be spending a lot of time on these options here in later videos. Okay, but right now, and on this, I want to spend time on this. But right now, I just want to show how to create a favorite. The fastest way to do it is that even in a new edition of BibleWorks, you click on this because it'll get you in the habit. And that produces a drop down. You see how you can edit, search, display favorites? That isn't just the display favorites, it also includes searches. So you click on that and you'll get this box. You can also obviously see, you've seen this options window so many times. You can get it from Tools, Options. It's the same box. Alright, except now it's dropped down here to Bible versions. Okay? Now when you first see it, you're not going to have anything in the top window. In other words, there's not going to be anything here. You're just going to have to click the Add button. And in the older versions of BibleWorks, if you clicked Add and you were actually already on a favorite, it would create the new one from the characteristics of the old one. But unfortunately, they removed that useful feature after version 5. And now no matter which one you're on, if you select Add, you're going to get there. Well, wait a minute, maybe it did work. Okay, wait a minute, let me delete it. Okay, I'm on German now. If it's going to add a version that's based on German, it should have all the same things that are showing up here. Let's see if it does. No, it doesn't. Okay, what it's doing is if you already had a favorite, when you click Add, that means to add a new version, it's going to pick it from your first list. Alright, so then when you go to design your first favorite, you kind of want to make your first one be somewhere in the middle of all the versions you're going to create, which takes some planning. Alright, otherwise you're going to have to go through all the steps I'm going to show here. Our new one is based on this one that was already there. And they're calling it Display 01. You're going to be able to change that. After it's done this, you hit the Edit key. Alright? And the first thing you have to do is pick your search version. Alright? And of course the thing that's first displayed is English because it's based on the default. And their assumed default is KJV. Alright? Which I don't use because the KJV is just blech. Okay, it's often the best translation, but not often enough. None of them are often enough. And I like the NAU first just so I can see the capitalization of the OT quotes in the New Testament. So I put it as my search version usually. But you can pick any English version that you've installed when you did your initial installation of BibleWorks. So for the sake of argument, we're going to leave KJV in place. Okay? You have different versions of KJV. You got it with the Apocrypha, you've got it with Strong's and Geneva notes, then you've got the ASV, which is up here, American Standard Version, which is the KJV updated to 1901, and then they got other versions, I forget which. But we'll leave that in place for now. That's your search version. Okay, but that's what you search on. That's not what displays. You can have your display be whatever you want. You always want your display to at least be the same as your search version. Okay, you're going to bomb the machine if what you pick as your search version isn't already also picked as your display. So you want to make sure that you have it displayed. Alright. And then you can pick however many others you want. Like, let's say you want to pick all the English. Unfortunately, you cannot. They do not give you an option to select all. So you have to manually pick each one. Now this is the Apostolic Fathers English translation. So I guess it's a compilation from all the writings of the so-called Apostolic Fathers. Okay, this is another version of the KJV. This is Bible in Basic English, which on occasion actually gets the verse right. Usually it's a paraphrase and I don't like it. Complete Jewish Bible, that's something I've never seen yet. It's brand new. Here's Holman, which is a new edition in later versions of BibleWorks. I've not looked at it either. I think I glanced at it, but, you know. Darby, okay, but you have to individually check all of these. This is the Peshitta translation, that's only of the New Testament. I think it might be the Old also. God's Own Word to the Nations version, well, that must be a paraphrase. Anytime you get the highfalutin title like that, that means that something's screwball with the translation. Whenever they make it fancy or high sounding, then you know that it's probably a bad translation. The Hone version of the NT Apocrypha, which you need because there's two kinds of Apocrypha, Old Testament and New, and generally what's called the Apocrypha doesn't include the NT Apocrypha. That's like, you know, those stupid fake letters. They're just hysterical. There's the James translation. There's Josephus. See, that's not really Bible, but you might want to look at it. See, because you can search in Josephus now. JPS Tanakh of 1917. Jerusalem Targum in English. Targum means translation. Alright, so now you got the Jerusalem. That's not the same as the New Jerusalem Bible. It's a different translation. Here's the King James Version with the Apocrypha. Here as it is with, okay, so you know, you can pick them all. But you have to pick them individually. Alright? So let's say you wanted to do those in the Net Bible and blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. Alright, but that's just English. Then you got French. You have all those French versions to choose from. Let's pick the Nouvelle Edition Genève, which I'm not real fond of. And the German. And let's pick the revised ELB, which I also am not fond of. And for the Greek, you know, you've got Apostolic Fathers Greek, you've got their morphology. This is where you get the morphologies, which I don't like. Okay, so you can pick morphologies too. Alright. And then you got the Hebrew. Now, the problem here is that whatever you're picking as a display version, you're going to have to remember. Because the next step is to show the order. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop now, or I think I'm going to unclick. See, you've got a whole bunch of Hebrew, including Aramaic, that you can pick from too. And then you got more languages than, it depends on what languages you installed. Alright, there's 4 or 5 different versions of the Latin, because the Apostolic Fathers also wrote in Latin. And you got Portuguese, which I don't have selected, but I can read. And then, you know, Spanish. And then you've got other languages, you know, Russian, Catalan, whatever. Okay, I'm going to pretend I don't want any of those because I'm going to start over. So now I'm going to edit it over again, and I've just cleared out everything I checked. So I'm back to only that for English. Alright, and for the sake of argument, I've got English, NAU, and NIV because it's picking from my basic list. Alright, for the sake of simplicity, I'm only going to add one from the French. Let's pick Louis II, which is a good French version. And then the revised Luther Bible, which is here. Okay, which I happen to like. And we'll pick what? This is a repetition of the GNT. BGT is the best one because it already picks the LXX. We'll just leave the other Greek ones off because I gotta show you how to order them, and that's gonna be a pain. You've got lots of, you know, Peshitta and all that you can do. Okay. Then you've got, well, forget that. We'll just forget what we got. We got basically what we have, because I have to remember it for the order. We got the KJV, the NAU, the NIV, the Louis II. But see, I've already ordered my Bible books. This isn't going to really be all that helpful. And Luther Bibel. So French and Luther Bibel for German. And I didn't add anything to the Greek. Okay. So now we're going to call that, I'm just going to give it a name because I'm going to get rid of this afterwards. I don't want it. Test. We'll just call it, just give it the favorite name of test. Alright. Now your problem is going to be ordering how you want them to display. Okay. So now we're done. So we click OK. And now you got to go to your search, what search order you want. Okay, so you got search, and that doesn't let you set the search order. So we go back to tools, options, okay, and then version order right there. Okay, now this is the list you get, and this is the problem with it. All of the Bibles that you have installed are going to be listed here, whether or not they're in your display versions. Okay? If you say show active only, that simplifies your search. Okay? But you'll notice that when it says show active only, that's only pertaining to whatever favorite you've already done. Because that's based on my basic, which is what's in my browse window. So that's not something you're going to want to use. So you have to show all versions. Okay, so here's the problem. I've already, yours won't look like this. Their default display is basically going in alphabetical order by the acronym. So WTT would normally be at the bottom, BHT would normally be at the top, toward the top. Okay, so if you wanted to change the order, and it's going to change them for all of your favorites, not just one of them, then you have to go through every single installed Bible and say, okay, no matter what favorite I choose, do I want that first? If the answer is no, then you have to manually move it down one at a time. Okay, and as you can see, it takes a while to move it because it's also moving it on the screen. Alright, or you want to move it up. Alright, so, you know, fortunately they do group them by English, you know, by English, you know, the language first, and then by acronym second. And if you wanted to say put the King James ahead of the New American Standard, then you'd move it up. But it moves it up in all of your favorites, not just the one. Okay, so you have to have a master plan about how you want your versions listed. Now most people are probably going to say, well, the heck with it, I'm going to list my versions per language in alpha order by acronym, in which case your search problem is probably pretty easy because they're already organized that way. But here's your problem. If you're going to use a multi-language favorite, where it's going to be English, you know, you're going to want your Hebrew, you're probably going to want your Hebrew and your Greek up toward the top, so you can see those first. Alright, and then you're going to want your main language that you use in your thinking next. But if you're using a multi-version, the trouble is like you've got, like, Latin is way down here. You see, well, I've changed my order, but in their default, it's in alpha order by language. So see, German would precede Greek. So if you had a multiple favorite that included German and Greek, then your Greek is going to be coming after your German. And maybe you want that, but generally speaking, you're not, because you're going to want to compare that. You're going to want your native language to be third in order. You're going to want the original to be first and second. And you're going to want your native language to be third, so you can compare it, just eyeball it all in the same thing. Because, like, look, see, I've got the transliteration here first, I've got the Hebrew next, and if it's New Testament, this whole line and this whole line isn't going to show. Then I've got the Greek next, and then I've got the first English translation next. You see? Because then I can see the Hebrew and the Greek and the English all in one go. And I can just look at it. I can just eyeball the English and know where it is in the Greek here. Alright? So now let's take our new favorite, which we call test, and I clicked on it, so now my test version is first. So after the English, I got French, Louis II, and the redone. Oh, I picked LUO, didn't I? That's the Luther Rebel from 1912, re-edited in 1995. So see, these are coming next. Now if I wanted them to be before the English, because I'm picking them, then that's going to alter my word order in every other favorite. Okay? So now, Tools, Options, Version Order. If I change the French, let's say I want the French really to go on the top, the Louis II is right here, I'd be moving it up. And as I'm moving it up, you're going to see it move up ahead of, see, the SG now is moving just above the Greek and now just below the Greek and move down. But that's going to change for all of your favorites now. All of your favorites that are going to contain French, the French is going to appear before the English. Now if you like that, well then fine. And you can also click the Move to Top button, in which case it's going to move it to the top. Oh boy. The video froze again. I really should stop making videos on BibleWorks 8. It's still recording, but it's not doing anything. It froze. God. Alright. So now it moves to top. Okay? So you see, that's what happens, and that's the problem. So I don't want that, so I'm going to click cancel. So now it was back to where it was. Okay, so that's the basic idea with moving versions, is that you have to do it per version, and it affects all of your other favorites in the same order. So you cannot change the order specific to that favorite. You can only change it pan favorite. Okay, so that's basically it with the favorites. That's going to take a long time to set up. And just so that you got an idea, I did basic, and let me get rid of the analysis window. I did basic, which shows 3 English versions that I happen to like, but with the Hebrew and Greek on top. That I did in version order. Then I got one for exegesis, which is showing there. I have more choices in this. It's not showing the way it's supposed to. That's not what I elected. It's just showing for exegesis, it's showing only 1 Greek version and 3 Latin versions, which I really didn't want, so I'm going to have to correct that. Okay, I'm having trouble recording. Alright, I'm going to have to stop this, I think. English is supposed to show all of my English versions, but since the computer is going slow on me again due to conflicts, alright, it's showing more English versions now, but it's showing the Latin in the wrong place because I have Latin appearing after English. Okay, so see, that's the problem with the version order. Alright. I have no idea what JTE is. What's JTE? Targum Jerusalem. Okay. Well, that's not indexed properly. It's showing a whole bunch of verses instead of just one. Okay. Then French is all the French versions, as you can see. And my mouse is really getting bad, so I'm going to just cut this now. You get the idea. Okay, here's another little trick, and it's really an important one. You can't search in the non-Bible books. They claim that you can, but you can't. I've just tested it. What I did is I created a new favorites of the, well, I have to show it to you, I guess, because there's just no way else to do this. I created a new favorites with just the Apocrypha, Josephus, and Philo in the Mishnah. Okay, so what you have to do each time is change the search version to even see it. See, I've got, here's the Apostolic Fathers English translation. I've also got the Greek so I can compare them. Okay, here's two different versions of the Apocrypha, Josephus, King James with the Apocrypha, Brenton with the Apocrypha, because that's in Greek so I can compare it. The NAU just so that I have a base. Pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament by two other guys, their translation. Here's Philo, and here's the Mishnah. Now all of those are readable both in BibleWorks and as separate files. Okay, but I don't know why it ended up on Tobit. I didn't ask for that. Alright. In order to read them, you have to click on or get your choose search version. So that means that this button, this is your choose search version button. You should select it and put it in your button bar, because that makes it faster. Now here's the trick. I originally changed the search version to Apostolic Fathers. See how it automatically went there when I clicked it? I had originally gone through all these steps of choosing it, so you'll notice they're right at the top. Okay, so the last search version you chose is remembered. So if you want a conglomerate set of favorites with non-Bible books, you cannot search on words in these Bible books. I've tested it. But what you can do is you can set it up and then change your search version each time, okay, and it will remember, so that instead of you having to scroll down and find what the acronym was for the search version, it's storing the last four at least that you searched. So now let's say I want to read the ugly Apostolic Fathers. Okay, here we go. I pick that, I click OK. I'm now in that. I click my double feet, and now I've got all of Bilius 1 Clement, which has, you know, this is the letter I'm in. That's 1 Clement. Alright. And then here's the first chapter, and he goes on for 65 chapters worth of verbal diarrhea. This is one of the ugliest letters in all of Christendom. And only the unspiritually discerning can, you know, are fooled by it. Alright, he's just gross.
Owing, dear brethren, to the sudden and successive calamitous events which have happened to ourselves.
Now bear in mind, this is Lightfoot's translation. Okay, but honey, the Greek isn't any better. Okay?
It's very to the church of God and the ones who, oh, and la 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 la.
It's just as bad in the Greek. I mean, Lightfoot's a good translator. Alright? And the thing is, what's so nice about this is that here's the Greek words. So you don't need, you don't need a separate lexicon. You're just seeing them in the analysis window. All right?
Sudden and successive calamitous events. See, here we go. The sudden, I've need yours. Oh, yeah. He's using really fancy words to make them all impressed. Okay? This is talking about, see, he's writing in 96 AD. This is the persecution of Domitian. Alright? He's writing the very year that John is exiled to Patmos, and there's not one mention of John in the entire letter. Just like John is snubbing him in the very same year John wrote Revelation. I'll bet you $1,000 that's why when Clement comes out, because he's ticked off that Rome is so badly mentioned and burlesqued in Revelation 17. So he's writing his own version to counter John. That's why John isn't mentioned in the letter. But hey, read the ugly 1 Clement yourself, okay? Or any of these other ugly, disgusting so-called church fathers that only the idiots admire. There's no reason to admire these people. They wrecked Christianity in the 2nd century, which is exactly what Revelation warned about, which is exactly what Paul warned about for the very time period these guys lived in, syllable by year, in Ephesians 1:3-14. I'm making still videos on it, getting into Constantine's period. I'll be posting up the next video on that today. Alright? But here, read these yourself. Read them yourself. And see, you can pick all the verses. In chapter 1, there's only 3 verses. Yeah, because he's so wordy elsewhere. You got 65 chapters to go through. Take Pepto-Bismol when you read it. But that's Clement, see? And then you can choose any of the he's only choosing the valid letters of Ignatius. There's only 7 valid letters of Ignatius. Well, it looks like he's using some of the invalid letters too. And Diogenetus and Hermas. He doesn't have, this isn't everything. Okay? Go to earlychristianwritings.com to read it all. Because this is just the Apostolic Fathers. But up here you can get all of Schaff is in here, including the Nicene Fathers, like disgusting Eusebius. I swear we should these are the most disgusting. I'm ashamed to be a Christian and be in the same family with these people. And anybody who admires them cannot read Bible, period. You have to be a complete spiritual idiot to admire these people. They're so full of self-righteousness, it's not funny. And they wouldn't know the Bible if it bit them, but I've done enough videos on that. I'm getting off topic and becoming arrogant myself. Okay, so the point is that you choose your search version, and then you see it's preserved. So now see, here's Josephus in English, and then of course the translation, but it's giving you, it's giving you the Greek words so you can read it in Greek yourself. But it's using more than just one verse, obviously. That's ending like, where is it ending? Oh God, there's a whole lot more stuff in here. Okay, well, you'll have to read this on your own. But see, here's Josephus. You got Antiquities, Wars, Life, and Contra Apion here. Okay, and then you got all the chapters of Antiquities here that you can read in Greek or English. And then some of it's in Latin. So in my Josephus series, I've got it coded up to show the Latin too when it goes to Latin. Okay, and then here's the Mishnah. Uh-oh, I'm hitting my time limit. Okay, you can pick on these other ones. The Apostolic Fathers we saw, Philo we saw, Josephus we saw, or Philo you can see. But just choose your search version and do it 4 times in your collection so that it'll come up easily the next time. Okay, my computer's dying. That's what I get for getting upset. Signing off.